All right, here we go. Oh shit. I just realized that this bottom part where it says storytelling through flowers is from the template because before I exported it, I didn't properly save the version that I made. So where it says storytelling through flowers, it's supposed to say what did I put? How the law of attraction brings us what we truly desire. So just use your imagination. Happiness attracts wealth. How to use the law of attraction to attract what you truly desire. So, as you may or may not know, my name is John Robinson. Hi. I enjoy deep diving into uh, information about self improvement, self development, how to use the mind to reach your fullest potential, how to leverage your own experiences to catapult you ultimately to what you really want to experience. And basically, I love to take large, complex, uh, bits of information and sort of compress it and simplify it so that anybody can understand it, even a 5 year old. So that's what I'll pretty much be doing here on a pretty consistent basis. I want to do it every day around noon. So, thank you for coming. like, you know, I wouldn't be here without you. And so let's get into it. Bionic Solutions is the company that I've invested into. Right now it's really just an idea, but it's on its way to becoming a um, a holding company for the many other companies that I'm creating. One of those branches is a podcast or a internet show. So on this podcast, as you can see, my IG is The Wealthiest Karma. That's the name of the podcast. I have a few episodes online right now, working towards getting the studio set up, getting equipment, getting the staff. So sometime, hopefully this year, but more than likely it'll be sometime early next year. We'll see. All I know for sure is that it's all coming together. All the pieces are coming together. So Bionic Solutions is going to be a holding company for a lot of um, entities that I'm creating for the purpose of bringing large, complex, structured information into a very small, simple, easily digestible, concrete process. And today I'll just be talking about a subject that I feel people may not have a clear understanding of, and that's wealth. Because the reason I say that, people that I've come in contact with all have a different idea about what wealth is. Because if you think about it, the average person works a 9 to 5 job. They may enjoy it, they may not enjoy it. I think a large majority of people don't enjoy it. And I think the people that do enjoy it just found the way to enjoy it. I think that they really, truly love it. And the reason I say that is because as human beings, we're aware of the fact that we're different from most animals in the animal kingdom, which is because we have a prefrontal lobe, we have an opposable thumb, and basically our brains are structured to be consciously aware of ourselves. Most animals in the animal kingdom aren't aware of themselves. They're sort of like robots in a sense. They have a functionality, they have a specialization, but we as human beings have the ability to change our nature. If you want to be a construction worker, if you want to be a pilot, if you want to be an architect, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be an artist, whatever it is that you want to be, you can be. It isn't what is the word I'm searching for? It isn't determined by your birthright. You understand what I'm saying? So since we have that ability, it's sort of like a big slap in the face for someone who's also a human being, just like yourself, to tell you what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. And also for that human being or that company created by human beings to tell you that you have to be here at a certain time, you have to wear something, or telling you what to wear, telling you what time to be there, basically telling you what to do. An adult telling another adult what to do, and there's no negotiating that. I don't know about you, but personally, that doesn't float my boat. That sinks my ship. And I've worked many jobs, and there's some that I liked, there's some that I didn't like. But ultimately, regardless of how much I liked it or didn't like it, I cannot find happiness in the idea of working, or excuse me, I can't find happiness in the idea of someone telling me what to do. So most people don't experience wealth. That's the reality. All right. And wealth isn't about having money itself, because I know some people who have well-paying jobs, six-figure income jobs. That is not happiness. I've seen their lives. I've seen the things that they have accumulated. And you might look at those things and say, wow, you have all this stuff. But all of that stuff, when it isn't coupled with happiness, just becomes weight. It just becomes, it becomes debt. It becomes liabilities. You got to make sure you keep all these things afloat, because the moment that you stop, now you've got to accrue debt. Now you've got more bills than you've got income. Now you've got depression. So there's a lot of things that come with having a lot of income. All right. That's just to say wealth isn't about accumulating income. We're really going to get into this. So if you notice, happiness attracts wealth is the title. Why did I title it that way? Because without wealth, you cannot have happiness. But on the flip side, you can't have happiness, or excuse me, you can't have wealth without happiness. So you can't have happiness without wealth, and you can't have wealth without happiness. They go hand in hand, and they're coupled with each other. And so you might say, well, how can that be? Because in order to have one thing, to have another thing, you got to have one thing first. And you're right. That is true. You have to have you have to complete step one before you complete step two. That's just the natural order of things. Or should I say the physical order of things. But if we are looking at things on an energetic level, two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So you can't acquire both, even though they're two different things. You can't acquire them both simultaneously. How do you do that? Well, happiness is an emotion. Wealth is a manifestation. So, honestly, emotion is a manifestation, but it's an internal manifestation. Wealth is an external manifestation. Everything moves from the highest to the lowest, from the inside to the outside. Everything. You think about rain, think about condensation, think about how trees grow. Okay, it's a seed in the dirt. The seed is planted inside the dirt. The water falls from the sky as rain and germinates, helps the seed germinate, which then over time the seed grows out of the ground. All right, and there's so many other examples you can use in terms of things being created. Okay, where it starts from a higher place, moves to a lower place, starts from the inside, moves to the outside. Just think about birth in general. So you have to have happiness in order to have wealth, but you have to have wealth in order to have happiness. Again, how do you acquire both at the same time? Wealth is perception based, just like happiness is perception based. So really everything starts from how you perceive things to be. Okay? There's people I know who are making an average salary that have a happy life because they're doing what they love. They have the ability to experience all the joys that they want with what they have. Now, to me, that's the perfect example of wealth. It's not about the amount of money that you have or the amount of things that you have, but really just your ability to respond to life in the way that you want to. That's wealth. Happiness is accepting things for the way that they are and being in a positive mindset, being in a positive vibrational space. There's some people who don't have limbs. They lost their limbs either at sometimes at childbirth or going to war sometimes. And some people who have been through extreme physical circumstances, they could live their life dauntingly aware of all these things. But there's a lot of people that I know who have a level of happiness that most people can only dream of. Because the reason why is the way that they perceive it. The way that you perceive things to be dictates how life will respond to you. So, in a sense, the way that you respond to things is the way you're letting the universe know who you are and what you want. If I'm walking around and I'm pissed off all the time about everything, life will give me more things to be pissed off about. Right? I know some people like myself who have tempers. I have a fucking temper. All right? I'm a very aggressive person. At the same time, that's not because I don't have happiness, because I actually have a lot of happiness. All right. And in fact, when I was younger, I thought, well, if you're an angry person, that means that you're not happy, because two things can occupy the same space at the same time, right? That's what we believe. But the truth of the matter is, I'm just a fighter. Like I love to fight. I love to compete. I mean, I have hella fighting games. I've been sparring like most of my adulthood, a little bit when I was younger. Uh, I love the feeling of I play chess. Like I and I'm just an aggressive person. I love to work out. You know what I'm saying? I speak very bluntly. You know what I'm saying? And so for a long time, I thought that there was something wrong with me because I shouldn't be this way. I should be a nice guy. So I went down that nice guy road, and that wasn't me. So I attracted a lot of things that I didn't agree with, and I was pissed at all the things that I attracted because I didn't understand the things I understand now. So nowadays, everything is very smooth. I am who I truly am, which is accepting things for accepting everything as they are, and that's a part of happiness. And wealth, like I said, is not about how many things you have or how much money you have, but it's really just your ability to respond to events in your life the way that you want to. Give you an example. So, like I said earlier, there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but something happened where he was in an accident. He lost his limbs, meaning he lost his leg and arm appendages. So he was basically just a torso, a talking torso. And for a long time, you could imagine, felt like shit. His wife left him. He had not only lost his limbs, but he also had like third-degree burns on his body. So what eventually happened was, through a course of events, he found what he was most passionate about, more than he had ever experienced in his entire life. I mean, his life. You could only imagine how you know low he felt at that time during his life. But for him to, in the midst of that, find what he was most passionate about, which was activism, and for that to become the joy and brightness in his life that he wanted to share with the world, it totally changed the dynamic and who he was and how he identified himself. So to me, that's wealth. Not that you have to go through extreme circumstances and you have to change the world or anything like that, but it is about knowing what it is that you're most passionate about, what you want most in life, and to pursue it. So happiness, if you think about it, is the fuel, and wealth is the vehicle. So happiness attracting wealth is simply a matter of knowing how to put the gasoline into your vehicle. The vehicle is to help you reach your destination, and your destination is what your purpose is or what you're most passionate about. So, what is happiness? How does it play a role in your life? Well, if you think back far enough, you may be able to remember a time, maybe when you were younger as a kid, where you were just happy all the time. You might have played with your friends a lot or played games. You might have gone to the park or had toys. If you just take a moment to think about that time period, or if you're lucky enough to have your own children, you could probably see the joy in their face when they do things that you probably enjoyed when you were young, and you can kind of, you can remember that time period. If you don't have any children, like I say, just try to remember back. But my point is, we're born with that happiness. It's not something that we had to work for. It's not like our paychecks that we get nowadays. It's not like our education from the school system. Well, if you want to call that an education, but it's something that we've naturally been born with. It's an innate power that puts us in alignment with everything that we desire. Everything that we want in life is keenly tied to our happiness. 100% of everything that we have in our life is because we knew it would bring us happiness. Um, I would say, well, everything that we have in our life that we actually want is keenly tied to our happiness. How does it play a role in your life is a matter of your perspective. Because if I'm primarily focused on the things in my life that make me unhappy, I'll always find something. It's really easy, honestly. It doesn't require a lot of energy or effort to find the problems in life, or to see your shortcomings, or to see others' shortcomings. The mind is really designed to be critical. But when you can find the things that you are happy about, and you can start to emphasize those things in your life, then you can start to see how everything connects to each other, and how each event in your life kind of plays almost like a screenplay where everything is synchronized. So happiness is really the gatekeeper to everything that we desire. But I think people often think that you have to have the things that you want in order to experience the happiness. But in fact, you have to have the happiness in order to attract the things that you want. Um, there's a lot of people who are experiencing depression, right? I have. Like, I'll just give you an example. So, like, like when I was younger, when I was in high school, um, I had like really bad acne. I remember that. I remember like I tried everything. I was like, I gotta get rid of this somehow, some way. And so I remember Proactive first came out around that time. This was like 2004, 2005, and I tried it, and I was like doing all these different methods to try to get rid of it. Nothing worked. I'm telling you, man. I tried like every remedy in the book. Well, I won't say every remedy. I'm not gonna sit here and tell that story, but I definitely tried a lot of things, and just nothing worked. And I remember just a few years later, um, I started doing more things that I enjoyed, and started hanging out with my friends more. The things that used to stress me out weren't stressing me out as much anymore. And you know, not too long after that, my acne just kind of disappeared. I mean, it cleared up about 60, 70%. And I couldn't figure out, like, how did it all clear up? Because, to my knowledge, I hadn't done anything to improve it. So I couldn't figure it out. It didn't make any sense to me. But now when I take into account everything that I've learned and understand, it was because my vibration changed. I was in a lower vibrational place, in a very depressed place. So, when I would see my face all bumpy and blemish, I would, it would keep me there. I would continuously go downward into a place of feeling like, oh man, it's just getting worse and worse. And because of that feeling that I had, because of how I perceived it, that became the reality. So once my focus changed, once I stopped looking at the problems, like my acne was so bad, I just don't know what to do, and replaced that with, I'm just out here having fun with my friends. I don't even notice it. It disappeared. So it's an interesting thing how our focus actually generates or activates the law of attraction. So when you have something that you're focused on that you find joy in, it could be anything. It might be your job. More than likely, it's not though. But let's say it is, or let's just say it's something that you enjoy to do, like watching Game of Thrones, or if you're an artist, you love to create. If you're into fitness, going to work out, going to hang out with your friends, whatever the case might be, whatever brings you happiness, um, that will play a major role in your life. It's not that you have to constantly do things that bring you happiness in order for you to attract the wealth that you want. It's just that you have to understand your own desires. You have to spend time with yourself to uncover what it is that you truly want. Because when you know this brings me happiness and that brings me happiness, you won't really need those things as much. It's funny. It's a funny thing. Once you get the feeling of happiness, you can kind of activate it or like flip the switch on and off whenever you want to. So another thing I want to get into is knowing versus believing. Clarity and cloudiness are similar because look, when you know something, there is no shadow of a doubt. You don't even have to think about it. It's like automatic. All right. And believing is actually the same thing. When you believe something, you don't have to think about it as much. You don't have to formulate a conclusion about that thing as much. It's just kind of automatic. Both of these things are automatic. But I'll tell you this though, most of us are walking around with beliefs that don't serve us. All right. And a lot of us as well are walking around with knowledge that doesn't serve us. Just because you know a lot doesn't mean that you'll be on a pathway to happiness. And that's the name of the game. Okay? Happiness is most important. Some people might say, well, ignorance is bliss, and I don't want to be ignorant. Well, that's the choice you want to make. More power to you. But I'll let you know this. The stronger your ability is to ignore, the more happiness you'll experience. Okay? If you're aware of a lot of things, I guarantee you won't be happy in a consistent basis, because somewhere around that you'll start to notice things that you don't want. You'll start to see things that you didn't want to see. Okay? I have a keen ability to ignore things. I haven't always, actually. I've probably been the most observant person I know. So I had to develop the ability to ignore things. It's kind of like, that saying, what other people think of me is none of my business. And when I get on Facebook, I see a lot of people express their opinions, and then I see a lot of people reacting to it. So you know, we sometimes feel the need to justify what we believe or what we know to others. And the reality is you don't, because regardless of what you tell someone else, they may or may not believe you anyway. They may actually be opposed to what you're saying. You may be opposed to what I'm saying. So it's not a matter of, you know, getting other people to understand. It's a matter of you getting to understand yourself. And that's why I said it's important to get more familiar with your desires and what you want. Because beliefs are something that we typically gain from others around us. It might be parents, it might be teachers, it might be students, peers, but most of the time, um, or religion, but most of the time our beliefs are tied to someone else's opinion or someone else's perspective. Knowing, on the other hand, usually comes from experience. Is usually, I've been through this, or I've seen this, or I've witnessed this firsthand, therefore I know this for sure. I know this. So belief, a lot of times, like I say, are from others. Knowing, knowledge, is from ourselves. But both of the two have to be on the same page. You have to believe and know that you want to be where you want to be. Whatever your desire is, you have to know that's your desire. You have to believe that's your desire. They're both they're not opposite ends of the spectrum, but they both sort of play a part in manifestation. Your belief is more so of your emotional uh, outlook, whereas your knowing or knowledge is the mental aspect of it. So believing is the emotional aspect, knowing is the mental aspect of it. And when both are on the same page, you gain clarity. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, if they're both adjacent from each other, then you'll have cloudiness. But the reason that they're similar is because when you feel clarity, you know it without a shadow of a doubt where you are. When you have cloudiness, you know where you are without a shadow of a doubt. The only difference between clarity and cloudiness is when you start to put desires into the equation. Okay? Because desires will let you know how close you are to and how far you are from it. The reason why people become delusional or they get into denial is because they can see how far they are from what they truly want. Yet, they would much rather convince themselves that either A, they don't need it, or B, they don't deserve it. So, that's usually the reason why people experience delusion, being delusional and in denial. Now, clarity, on the other hand, is knowing where you are and where you want to go. It's not always a matter of knowing how far you are or how close you are, but it's definitely important to know in clarity, knowing, okay, this is what I want, or this is where I want to go. If we're talking about wealth, if we're talking about, let's say, specifically money, you know how much money you want to make, you know how much um, work it will take to get there. So that's in a sense what clarity or excuse me, where clarity and cloudiness share the same space, because I guarantee you most people know that they're not living the life that they want to. They're not living their best life. But the reason why people usually aren't willing to do the work is because, like I said, either A, they convince themselves that they don't really want it, they talk themselves out of it, or B, they don't feel they deserve it. They may feel like they have to work harder. They feel like they may have to do more. But the truth is, beyond all of this, when you have internal happiness, when you can find the vibration of happiness and the feeling of happiness, which is why I always refer back to when we're children, because for most of us, that was the time period where we can find it very easily, but we lose it as we get older in age because of responsibilities and I don't want to look like I'm lazy. So there's just all these different aspects that we tend to fall under, uh, that's kind of get in the way of manifesting the things that we really want. Knowing what you want and believing that you'll get it is always the winning combination. So, what are you being called towards? All right, let's go ahead. Let's address it. Are you driven or being driven by something? Okay. When I'm when I ask, what are you being called towards? I'm not talking about from a religious aspect, or anything like that. But most of us have ambitions and desires, all right? Most of us want to, let's say, reach our fullest potential. So, what is that for you? What do you feel is your highest potential? What do you think will get you there? Okay, and most importantly, are you being called by it? Meaning, are you being called to something, or are you driven to do something? So is this a me thing? Is this something that you want to accomplish for your own sake? Or is it something that you want to accomplish for others' sake? That's important. That's probably the most important question you can ask yourself. Why do I want this? Why do I want to get my degree or get this job or be with this person? Or why do I want this amount of money? Okay, let's actually use the money example, because like I said, that's the thing that people trip up on the most. I should say excuse me, we all are dealing with some type of insecurities. We're all trying to, do the best we can with what we have. So, being called towards something, it could be a purpose, it could be just an action, you know, it could be a thought, it could be an idea. When it's that drawing feeling, that's usually something that you can't ignore. All right, but let's say you have a drive to do something. Most of the time, that's self-initiated, and honestly, is willpower based. The thing about willpower is that it will eventually run out. You do not have an infinite amount of willpower, but once you found something that you're inspired by, it becomes limitless. But my point is, you have to identify the difference between your calling, which is your purpose, and your drive, the things that you want to do, the things that you want to have and accomplish, because they're very distinctly different, and sometimes people put those in the same category. We like we will say things like, I got a drive, I got a huge drive, or what I'm saying, I got a work ethic, and I'm a hard worker and I never give up, and I'm super responsible. I take care of all my responsibilities. That's awesome. But what are you being called towards? And a lot of times when I talk to people, they don't have an answer. A lot of times when I have a discussion about this, people draw a blank. They don't want to continue the conversation because I think a lot of us are really insecure about that fact that we don't know what our purpose is. We know that we can take care of the bills. We know that we can work this job. We know that we got some gas in the tank. We know we got some money in our pocket. And that drives us to continue keeping the show on the road, or making sure the show goes on. But I'll tell you what, I've lived both. I've been the person who's been driven, and I've been the person who's been called. And being called is a much more powerful experience. It's something that I want everybody to experience, because when you know what your purpose is, when you know what you truly want, everything in your life changes. Okay, when you have a drive to do something, you might meet a lot of adversity. You might hit your head up against the ceiling a lot. You might trip and fall, because that's a me thing. That's an ego thing. Okay, if I'm a ambitious person and I'm a go getter, I'll probably meet a lot of people who don't like me. But no, but not that that matters. But you probably know a lot of people who accomplished a lot for themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, do you know the difference? Do you know the difference between having drive and having a calling? Okay, most people who have a calling have a drive, but most people who have a drive don't have a calling. And that's the difference. Okay. Are you driven or being driven by something? So that's the end of my presentation today. I sort of whipped this thing up quick. Um, Tomorrow I got something up my sleeve. I'm really looking forward to sharing it. But if you got any questions, please let me know. Drop it in the comment section. Definitely, if you get a chance, follow me on IG, The Wealthiest Karma. I will be putting together these podcast episodes very soon. Whole lot more content, much more valuable. This was fun, man. I mean, I enjoy this a lot, and like I say, I'll be doing this more often. I'll do it at least once a day. So this is me signing out. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully, I'll see you again soon. If not today, tomorrow. In any case, enjoy. Please share, like, comment. Peace.